Sure. Well, one of the things that I suggested to the chief was I think that it's important for the African American community to become more and more familiar and comfortable with police presence. I think that they may know particular police officers who are in their area or in their ward, but the idea of becoming more familiar with the police and with the police officers becoming more familiar with the community. We thought about trying to gather together areas in Evanston, like African American churches, like community centers, and to have sit-downs where the community can come together and talk with some of the officers. And again, not because of an emergency or because something has happened, but so that we can develop relationships and understand each other in a deeper way.
So like a coffee with a cop.
But in a different setting. I think one of the things that's critically important in this relationship is the Evanston Police Department needs to and wants to depend on the local chapter of the NAACP to be a trusted partner to guarantee members of the community this is a safe space, this is a safe conversation, this is not a police agenda, it is an agenda to build a rapport with the community. And so I think that their partnership is key in this, vouching for us that we're here for a positive reason, we're here to do something that's going to last longer than the meeting.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. And I think, again, from an NAACP perspective, I think the important part is being able to create programs and activities where members of the community and members of the police department can work outside of situations that are potentially confrontational, situations that occur because something has happened, but we're trying to be proactive. We're trying to create opportunities, especially for children, African American, Latino, and other children, to see the police officers in a different light. To hear them, to talk to them, and to enjoy them as human beings. And of course, from my perspective, as members of an extended family. So I know I'm going out on a limb here, but I believe with all of my heart that Evanston represents an ideal opportunity to become a beloved community. I've always believed in beloved community since I was a little boy, hearing Martin Luther King Jr. talk about it. But when I grew up, I recognized, it just doesn't come by osmosis. You can't blink your eyes and say, here we have a beloved community. It takes work, it takes effort, it takes sacrifice, and I think it takes bold statements like this. I'm not sure that everybody in Evanston would be excited about what the chief and I are doing right now, but taking a bold step and moving forward and saying we're going to do this and we're going to put this in order, I think that's what that's what the community needs sometimes.
Why do you think some people would not be excited that you are working with the Evanston Police Department?
Because if you look at the national reality of African American communities and law enforcement in general, it's not the best scenario. You know yourself, I'm sure, about statistics and all of that. So I think people will read into that and say, well, hey, I think we need to approach it another way. Some people like to be confrontational. Some people like to approach a sort of relationship in a way that's a little different than saying, let's really roll up our shirt sleeves, sit down, and figure out how we can work together.
Well, then how do you take that philosophy and implement it in certain neighborhoods in Evanston where a lot of people do not like the police? And when I went to ETHS, a lot of my friends were vocal on how much they didn't like the police being in their neighborhoods and being who they were.
Yeah. I think from what I said just a little while ago, trying to sit down and talk with police officers in the African American community in small settings in different wards around town, in African American churches and community centers, so that we can try to change the narrative that you just described. I think the only way that you're going to be able to do that is to communicate. I'm not sure how much any relationship can improve without communication. So this is the first step. We're trying to communicate.
So you view this as kind of a kickoff campaign, kind of?
I do indeed. Yeah, absolutely.
Could you go back and explain the genesis of this from the state level decision? I got here a little late.
Sure.
At the state level, the NAACP and the Illinois Chiefs recognized the situation, the friction between communities of color and police departments, and they wanted to articulate in a formal, public way that concern and commit to shared principles to try to address those concerns. And I think, as the Reverend said, to take this bold step, make this bold statement to say, here are some shared principles that we agree upon, and we want to move forward with these shared principles to address the continuing concerns about mistrust, primarily in communities of color. And also, too, one of the things that's critically important about this relationship, if there's an issue or if there's an issue in the community, we need to have trusted partners like the Reverend that members of the community can go to and say, Reverend, can you bring this issue to the Chief's attention? Can you bring this issue to the department's attention? And that built-in trust factor that the NAACP already has is huge in getting to the root cause of a lot of these issues. I have to say also, in this context, I have the latitude to do this based on being the Chief of Police of the City of Evanston. Mayor Haggerty's here to support this effort, and that support from the Mayor and the City Council and the City Manager's Office to engage in this level of contact, to commit the resources, to commit the time to this is incredibly important, because in that, what the Reverend forecasted of these sit-downs with individual officers on a neighborhood basis in primarily churches in the African American community, I think that is a good start to expanding that relationship. And once again, in my line of work, we always say it's really, really hard to make friends in a crisis. We need to meet you before something's gone wrong. We need to establish that rapport, that ability for you to contact us either directly or through the NAACP, and that's what this effort is about.
How much adoption has this gotten on the local level in other communities so far? What evidence is there perhaps that it actually is having an impact at this point? I know it's fairly early, only a few months.
I would speak from the police side of this is that the Illinois Chiefs Convention is in Tendling Park sometime in mid-August. I think by the time that convention occurred, there'll be over 70 departments who have signed up and committed to the shared principles. But I think that once again, this has been adjusted by the Reverend and I to fit the situation here in Evanston, and I think again this is the only event that I'm familiar with where both the Chief of Police and the President of the NAACP have come together in a public setting to say, we're doing this, we're signing this, we believe in this.
Is there any way you can talk about what specifically has been changed to be targeted toward Evanston?
There's some verbiage, and I think also too there's one of the last paragraphs deals a lot with de-escalation, which is something we had committed to prior in our 27-point work plan, but it has been re-emphasized and bolstered in this document. And I think that that's something that the community expects and wants, and I think it's something that the Evanston Police Department had committed to, and we're recommitting to it in this document.
And I think one of the obvious changes that we made is putting in the language of Evanston. So at the state level, it's all state language. It's sort of innocuous. It's the state chiefs of Illinois. It's the state convention of the NAACP. But here, we're talking specifically about the Evanston Police Department. We're talking specifically about the Evanston North Shore NAACP working together in partnership. And if you look at some of the last principles, or the ones that are in the middle, we're really talking about working on ways where we can collaborate, ways where we can sit down and talk and figure out how we can improve relations in our community with the African American community and the police department. And again, I think the most important thing to recognize is we do that by communicating. And one of the things that the chief said, which I think is really important, we cannot communicate when there's a crisis. You know, everybody's temperature is up and the emotions are rolling, and folks get to cussing and all of that. Maybe not the preacher, but but I think what we do in most settings is we gather together and we become proactive, and we say, this shared principles document is not sort of a panacea for all of the issues that are occurring either in the state or in Evanston. We know that there are issues. We know that there are things that have to be addressed. But what this is a first step, saying this is the way that we can address some of the issues that are happening in the Evanston community.
Real quick, I'd just like to state that I appreciate the effort on both of your parts, because it seems like you're moving away from blame on each side to accountability. After just a brief read of what you have up there, you had to start from a place of consensus and move from there. So it looks like we're talking about the Black community holding themselves responsible, the police hold themselves responsible, being accountable, then moving forward. Because like you said, in a crisis, everybody, the blame game becomes that's what takes the impetus. So I appreciate this effort that you have.
Thank you. Mayor?
This is your press conference and everything, so I don't mean to crash the party, especially when I just got back from vacation. The Chief didn't, and the Reverend didn't even know I was going to be here. I'll just say, reiterate a couple points that these folks are making. I'm particularly proud that the city of Evanston is one of the first communities where the chief of police and the president of the NAACP have gotten together to, confirm, these shared values and shared principles that we have. As you all know, I've spent my career working with communities after disasters when really terrible things happen, and I always talk about those communities that recover the fastest when something bad happens are those communities that have a strong fabric within that community. And that fabric isn't, a black part of the fabric and a white part of the fabric. It's a truly interwoven and integrated part of that fabric. And having these shared principles and having both of these organizations and everybody in the community working towards executing these principles every single day is something that I think will help Evanston through a crisis should that occur. We are all works in progress. Each of us individually, our communities are work in progress. But I'm really proud of the work that these folks are doing together. And I'll also say I'm really proud that in Evanston, one person doesn't encapsulate all the values of this community. It really is integrated throughout the community. This doesn't just come from the mayor. Honestly, I wasn't even involved in any of this. But I can tell you, as the senior most elected official here in Evanston, these are values that the vast majority of people in Evanston would agree to. So thank you both of you. Thank you all for coming out and covering this important event.
Thank you.
Will we get copies of it?
Absolutely. Well, I thought it was most important before we pass out the copies that there were actually signatures on it. So that seemed to be an important part of this.
That legitimizes it,
You want a purple pen for this?
We got a big fat blue one in my pocket that we're going to use. So I think we just have to figure out a table where we can go so that it looks legible later.
We can get a couple of human beings to hold it, maybe, and then we'll go from there. Yeah.
I'm happy to hold it for you.
You want Jerry to hold it?
Jerry? Oh yeah. Jerry.
This side.
Sizemore is one of the vice presidents of the Evanston NAACP as well. It's good to see everybody here. Good to see the young people who are here as well. How are you all? Yeah, it's good to see you all.
All right.
Pretty good signature.
Okay. The date is July the 27th. Am I right, y'all?
Yes, sir. 10-4.
10-7. course, with the media being here, we hope this spreads. We hope that it goes to other communities, to other towns in Illinois. We've done it at the top level in terms of the state, but if we can get other communities to see how important this is, then this could actually be a pioneering effort in making our state a much stronger state. Yeah, thank you all so much. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Okay. Thank you. So where are we going to hang this? Yeah.
Well, one of the things I want to talk about is if you would like to have it for your congregation this weekend, and then we will hang it either at the police station or at a location of your choosing, or if you would like to bring it to the next meeting, the next chapter meeting.
Yeah.
I want to get it as widely seen in the community as possible.
That would be great. If you will leave it in my hands, then I promise you we will make sure that we do it at various churches and that we do it at the next membership meeting, and then we'll turn it back over.
Excellent. And we could always, I have a bulletin board outside the mayor's office. At some point, if you want, to have it there, we can put it there.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good.
Great.
Thanks. All right. Yeah, thanks again. Okay, thank you all for coming. Yeah.
Thank you.
I got it. Okay, thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Thank you, Chief Eddington.
Hi, how you doing today?
Good, good, and congrats on the retirement.
Well, we've got a couple of months of hard work to go, and then we'll be done.
All right.
Thanks for coming out, young man.
See your handcuffs.
How are you, young man? Good.
One of the things that's so important is part of good to see you.
Right.
Good morning. I'm the program supervisor here for Evanston Park.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay.
For any particular reason you felt that
I love that I'm a member of Christ.
Yeah, we're going to make sure that all of
Thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you.
but we want to spread the so maybe some of the congregation.
Would you, I have you here.
I remember
The website that has.
You remember?
ID.
Oh yeah. You were in the hotel, were you? Were you in it? Which part did you play?
I was
What did you say about when they were doing that? Evanston is so. What was your line?
That we have, and it's a great short trips. I would recommend it. I make email.
See you. Thank you for being on this.
All these things can,
And you know
all
what?
these different
You know what her line
I would
was?
appreciate it.
together. Yeah, but this is wonderful. It was so nice.
That's right. That's a good one.
Oh, excuse me, honey. Miss Joy.
Yeah.
You were in it. Oh man.
I think they're going to take a picture of the
Yeah.
kids. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm not going anywhere.
It was really good.
Hi, Mr. Nico Ross.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, you gonna take a picture
I am.
for me too? I know you got all sorts of stuff. I want a picture with these kids. Okay.
Now you guys all, I guess, in front of a camera.
Hey man, can we take a picture with these?
Let's do it. Let's do it. That'd be great.
And Nico, can you share with the mayor what the program is, especially with relation to the NAACP?
spread out. Don't make that face.
I'm putting you all on Facebook now, so I have to sign releases.
Watch out, he's got a lot of followers.
These are great. You guys are very photogenic.
Excellent, excellent.
Oh, can I try?
You want to take a picture?
I just grabbed one.
Thank you. Yeah.
Did you want to say a few words before you head out?
Okay. All right.
So this was fabulous. So
Thanks.
when did you all decide to actually put this into action?
Well, we got the information from the state and the state NAACP and police chiefs of Illinois. And when they released theirs, well, they actually said they were working on it probably about 4 or 5 months ago. So the chief and I sort of began to correspond back and forth about 3.5 months ago, and then decided we needed to do something specifically for Evanston. So we kind of tinkered with the principles, changed it very modestly, but wanted to make it sort of homegrown. And so we went back and forth for about the last 3.5 months, and then about a month ago decided on this day. This was the hardest day. Yeah, he's just coming off of vacation. I'm just about getting ready to go on vacation. So, but it was great. Yeah.
So one of the main things is, I know with the community is fear of, reporting certain things that are happening in the community. So, is the chief suggesting that people come to you with all that information?
I am very hopeful that one of the things the chief suggested in his remarks is that the NAACP ought to be an organization that works on behalf of the African American community in those situations. If somebody's reluctant to go to authorities, if they call it snitching and all of that, I'm hoping that they feel comfortable enough with the NAACP and even with me to come and share. And then we'll see together how we might be able to move forward and to proceed. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's an issue everywhere.
Yeah. That's a load to take on.
It is indeed. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Malika.
Good morning. I just wanted to